Assalamu alaikum. This is Btv-Chakraborty welcoming you to the English news from Btv-Chattogram. Let's begin with the headlines. Government's decision to implement July National Charter is realistic, says analyst. BNP will uphold every clause of July Charter, says Salahuddin. Jamaat Naibi Amir demands separate dates for national election and referendum. Gano Adhikar Porishad welcomed decision to hold national election and referendum on same day. Expatriates, government officials and voters in legal custody to vote through it. Supported postal ballots. App to be launched on 18th November. Israeli settler sets fire on mosque in occupied West Bank. International community condemned. And Bangladesh seal innings victory against Ireland in first test. Viewers, those were the headlines. Now moving on to the details. After long discussions and various political differences, an order has finally been issued to implement the July National Charter. In his address to the nation, Chief Advisor Professor Muhammad Yunus announced that the referendum will be held on the same day as the national election. Analysts believe that the government's decision to implement the July National Charter is realistic. They also think that if the July Charter is approved in the upcoming referendum, it will help overcome the country's ongoing democratic crisis and establish balance in the system of governance. Analysts expect a responsible conduct from the political parties in the regard. According to the Charter Implementation Order, the referendum will include a single question covering 4 issues, including forming an upper house based on the proportional representation PR system according to parties' vote share and establishing a caretaker government as outlined in the Charter. Voters will cast a yes or no vote. BNP Standing Committee member Salahuddin Ahmed has reaffirmed the party's commitment to fully uphold the July National Charter, saying the people will not accept any imposed proposals outside the charter. He made the remarks this morning as a silent march and rally titled "Growing Violence and Disrespect Against Women, Aware Women's Community Prepared for Prevention," organized by the Women and Children Rights Forum in the capital. BNP Standing Committee member and co-owner of the forum, Begum Salima Rahman, chaired the rally, while Dhaka District BNP General Secretary and Member Secretary of the forum, Advocate Nipun Roy Chaudhary, conducted the program. Welcoming the proposal to hold a referendum on the same day as the national election, Salahuddin Ahmed said such an arrangement would save both time and public money. He, however, noted that a referendum cannot itself enact legislation. The BNP senior leader later joined the silent march protesting the rising incidence of violence against women. The 8 like-minded parties, including Jamaat-e-Islami, have put forward a 3-point demand, which includes holding a referendum before the 13th international election. In a joint press conference reacting to the chief advisor's address to the nation, the demands were presented today by Syed Abdullah Muhammad Tahir, Naibi Amir of Bangladesh, Jamaat-e-Islami. He stated that if the referendum and the national election are held on the same day, the significance of the referendum will be diminished. Gana Adhikar Porishad has welcomed the decision to hold the national election and the referendum on the same day. The chief advisor's speech reflected the aspirations of political parties and the people. Gana Adhikar Porishad President Nurul Haq Noor said this at a press conference organized today at the party's office in the capital to share their reaction to the chief advisor's address to the nation. General Secretary Rashid Khan and other central leaders of the party were present at the event. Nurul Haq Noor said that the chief advisor's press chief and speech has helped the country and the nation overcome major uncertainties, and he gave importance to everyone's opinions. He also stated that there is no longer any confusion regarding the national election in February. According to him, the chief advisor's announcement has clarified the election timetable. The Election Commission will conduct voting through IT-supported postal ballots in the upcoming 13th National Parliamentary election to ensure voting rights for expatriates, government officials engaged in election duties, and voters in legal custody. For this purpose, the Election Commission is launching the Postal Vote BD app. Election Commission Senior Secretary Akhtar Ahmed said that after the app is inaugurated on 18th November, registration will remain open for the next 4 weeks. Expatriates will be able to cast their votes approximately 14 days before the election, and ballots will be sent 28 days in advance. Only registered voters will be eligible to vote through postal ballots. The Commission aims to ensure voting facilities for 50 lakh expatriate voters. According to EC guidelines, once registration is completed, voter information will be forwarded to the respective returning officer, who will then prepare a separate voter list. Meanwhile, government employees, prison inmates, and citizens involved in election duties will also cast their votes via postal ballots this time. However, like expatriates, they must register through the app to participate. Now, international news. An Israeli settler arson attack on a mosque in the occupied West Bank has drawn international condemnation as a wave of intensified violence against Palestinians continues unabated across the area. Israeli settlers set fire to the Hajjah Hamidah Mosque in the Palestinian village of Deir Istia near Salfit in the north of the West Bank around dawn on Thursday. Photographs taken at the scene showed racist, anti-Palestinian slogans sprayed on the walls of the mosque, which was damaged in the blaze. Copies of the Quran, the Islamic holy book, were also burned. The Palestinian Ministry of Religious Endowment and Affairs condemned that it said was a heinous crime that highlights the barbarity with which Israel threats and treats Muslim and Christian holy sites in the occupied Palestinians' territory. A spokesperson for UN Chief Antonio Guterres said that the international bodies was deeply disturbed by the assault. He said such attacks on places of worship are completely unacceptable. Jordan, Germany, and Switzerland also condemned the attacks. The violence comes amid a record-setting number of Israeli settler and military attacks on Palestinians across the West Bank so far this year, with many of the assaults taking place on the context of the 2025 olive harvest. At least 167 settler attacks related to the olive harvest were reported since October 1st. The United Nations humanitarian agency OCHA said in its latest update this week. Meanwhile, 2 Palestinian children were killed on Thursday when Israeli forces opened fire during a raid in the town of Beit Omar near Hebron in the southern West Bank, the Wafa news agency reported. Britain's public broadcaster, the BBC, has apologized to Donald Trump for editing a speech to make it look like he had advocated violence, seeking to ward off the United States president's threat of legal action. But in a statement on Thursday, the broadcaster rejected the basis for a defamation claim. The BBC said its chair, Samir Shah, sent a personal letter to the White House, making clear to Trump that he and the corporation were sorry for how his speech was edited in a documentary for Panorama, a current affairs show. It added that the broadcaster has no plans to broadcast and rebroadcast the documentary on any of its platforms. A third-party production company made the documentary film called Trump: A Second Chance, which spliced together 3 quotes from 2 sections of a speech Trump delivered on January 6, 2021. But the 2 sections of the speech were delivered almost an hour apart. Critics argued that the documentary edited the separate lines into what appeared to be one quote, in which Trump urged supporters to march with him and fight like hell. Among the parts out was a cutout section where Trump said that he wanted supporters to demonstrate peacefully. Following Trump's speech, thousands of his supporters would march on the U.S. Capitol and storm the building in an apparent attempt to disrupt the certification of the 2022 presidential election, which Trump lost. 3 days after a car exploded near the Red Fort on the Indian capital, Delhi, killing 13 people, investigations and investigators have told the BBC they are checking if it has any links to the recent arrest of 7 men by police in Indian-administered Kashmir. They say they are also investigating if it has any connections to the recent seizure of 2,900 kg of explosives from Faridabad, a Delhi suburb. On Wednesday, the federal cabinet issued a resolution calling it a heinous terror incident perpetrated by anti-national forces. The reaction matched earlier comments by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who spoke of the conspiracy, warned that the conspirators will not be spared and all those responsible will be brought to justice. Similar comments were made by Defense Ministry Rajnath Singh and some Home Minister Amit Shah. Mr. Shah, who is in charge of internal security, said that he had instructed officials to hunt down each and every culprit behind this incident. Police confirmed that they had registered cases under the Anti-Terror Law Unfully Activities Prevention Act in addition to the Explosives Act and Criminal Code, and the investigations was handed over to the National Investigation Agency, India's counter-terrorism law enforcement agency.